Good evening and welcome to tonight's episode of Blue Suede News. We'll be reviewing the good, the bad and the utterly stupid of the last 7 days. I'll waste no more time and I'll bring on today's guests. Al Grant, Professor John and Ishi Khan.
Hello.
Good evening to you all.
Good evening.
Hello.
Can I come to Ishi first and ask you to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Ishi, and I normally do stand-up. But today I'm sitting down for a panel show, which is all good fun because I get to wear my elf hat. So, hello.
Thank you very much, Ishi. Let's go to Professor John. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm Professor John. That's because in my day job, I'm an academic, and in the evenings, I'm also attempting stand-up. Although, like Ishi, I'm sitting down right now. I'm delighted to be on this show, especially delighted to be on this week, because last week, Tej Dutia claimed that she found it highly implausible that a man in his 60s who was a grandfather could be sexually attractive. And I'm here to prove she was right.
And good evening, Al Grant, also known as Lord Sparkles.
Hello, good evening. I'm a balloon artist and a comedian and a whole heap of other stuff, including magician, musician, loads of stuff. Jack of no trades.
Thank you very much. So, anyway, for those who don't watch this show very often, I can see we've got some viewers already. Please say hello. This is an interactive show, so we'll bring your comments onto the screen at some point. In fact, I can see we've got some comments already. So we have got Alex Lean, who's watching tonight in the bath. I think that's the actual bath and not the place.
Way too much information, Alex.
And we've got Michael Paul Griffiths, one of our regular viewers. Nice of you to join us again, Michael. And he says, yo. I wonder if that yo will actually build up during Advent into a big Christmas, sort of ho-yo-yo or whatever.
Yo.
So, but again,
Michael,
nice of you to join us. I can see we've got some other people. Oh, we've got Benny. Lovely of you to join us, Benny.
Hi, Benny.
So anyway, so basically, please say hello. We try and make this an interactive show, so please join in. If you want, we have a round later on where we discuss stories, and if you want to suggest a story for us to discuss, please put it in the comments and we'll come to it. So moving on then to the first round.
What's the story? Morning glory.
So I'll bring onto the screen the story I'm going to talk about. And before I do that, I'll just explain that, it's very easy to talk about COVID. It's very easy to talk about vaccinations. We've been talking about, all those for the last few weeks anyway. So tonight I thought I'd go for something slightly different. So this is the Blue Suede News story of the week. Cher saved an elephant in Pakistan. So she went to Islamabad to personally oversee the relocation of a lonely elephant called Kavan. Kavan, or it might be Kavan, I'm no good with names. Anybody who watches this show will know that. Kavan has been lonely since his partner died in 2012. And through Cher's help, he's been relocated to Cambodia, to a large jungle enclosure in a wildlife sanctuary where there's other elephants for Kavan to make friends with and no longer be lonely. So I just thought it was a lovely story. Let's go to Ishi first, see what she thinks of it.
Well, I think that's a great way to justify travel at the moment with COVID. going on, isn't it, Cher? And just like get people's sympathy vote on side. I love elephants, but I'm just like thinking about the poor elephant. I mean, you know, he's going from Pakistan, which is they predominantly speak Urdu there, to Cambodia, and he will have language barriers. He will have, like, how does he settle into that environment? You know, so yeah, he's got a lot of migrant type issues, but nice way to get yourself back into the news there, Cher. I know all celebrities are suffering right now from the love me, I'm still alive, but yeah, great one. Yeah, nice one.
I've got to say,
Cher.
she's looking very young in the picture. Let's go to Lord Sparkles next. See what you make of the story.
The pachyderm from Pakistan, I think, will be able to go quite well in Cambodia. And you've actually pronounced the name, it's not Kavan, it's COVID. Very subtle difference. So
Now,
I
there's
think
a
it'll
travel
be
ban
great.
on COVID.
You'd think that, but the temperature of that elephant is quite happy.
And let's go to Professor John to get the academic
Hang on.
view on.
Hang on.
What?
Hang on.
No.
You've also got the fact that she's no Doctor Who, even though she keeps on claiming if she could turn back time, and then she could actually bring both elephants across. That you put that.
I love that.
Anyway, let's go to Professor John for his take on this story.
Well, she looks suspiciously like Michael Jackson in that photograph, so I'm not at all sure it's actually her. But I believe elephants live for a very long time and move ponderously, so she probably feels a lot of sympathy with them on both counts. I think it got more than this, didn't it? Because didn't she see the elephant onto the plane, and then she flew, not on the same plane, but a different plane to the destination, and welcomed the elephant off the plane as well. The story says...
Was it a Dumbo jet? Thank you.
I'll give you a rim chop for that, Al.
Yeah,
I'm not going to give you any points because I don't give points out on this show. So points mean...
Fuck all.
Fuck all.
Thank you very much. You're already a better panel than last week.
The elephant had a trunk, so of course it had to go in the cargo hold, or at least it's luggage.
At least they could pack easily.
Seriously, for a moment, the way the media treat this, you know, it's as if it's a wonderful good news story, and it probably is. But that elephant's been on its own for a long, long time. And they're cheerfully saying, oh, we're adding it to a herd in Cambodia, so it'll be fine. Well, if I've been in solitary confinement for a long time and I was added to a whole group of people who I had to treat as family, I don't think I would instantly integrate. So I think Cher needs to stay around in Cambodia and help the integration process, preferably for a very long time.
Yeah. Anyway, we've had a viewer joke. I'm going to go like that for that joke. Thank you, Michael. So, anyway, that's the Blue Suede news story of the week. So let's move on to our next round.
Faking it.
This is where I give a story to our panelists, and all they have to do is work out whether it's fake news or factual news. So first of all, I'll bring the story up, and then I'll decide who I'm going to give it to. So who shall I give this first story to? I think I'm going to give this first story to Lord Sparkles. Are you ready, Lord Sparkles?
Kind of. Let's find out.
Okay. Welcome to the South African lottery Powerball draw.
I'm going to ask you to start speaking again. It's clipping.
Numbers tonight. Welcome to the South African Powerball lottery draw. The numbers tonight are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The Powerball is 10. During this Powerball lottery draw in South Africa, this is the sequence of numbers that were drawn, and 20 ticket holders had to share the jackpot, each winning 5.7 million rand, which is £278,000. The odds of that combination is 1 in 42 million.
Was it a rollover?
I've got no information on that. I mean, it was a Powerball, but whether it's about, I mean, it rolled in the machine.
I didn't actually hear you. Can you say that again? Sorry.
It would have been rolling in the machine.
John, can you repeat what he said, please? Professor.
He said, he said the balls were rolling in a machine, I presume, like any lottery, and they came out.
Oh, right. Okay.
The chance is 1 in 42 million. Is it true?
And can you name the name of the machine for the South African?
I can't name the name of the machine.
Nelson.
Right. South African National Lottery Draw. Right. And the Powerball Lottery Draw. So is it fact or is it fake? This
I'm going to go for fact. It's definitely fact.
It's definitely fact, is it?
That's what I'm saying.
Let's see whether you're right or not.
You're joking. You're not joking.
This is a true story. It is being investigated. When I delved into the story, even though it was a draw live on TV, they were using a random number generator. And what they're now investigating is whether anyone could have hacked the random number generator to create this sequence of numbers. But it could purely be coincidence because it is a possible sequence on this lottery.
Yes,
of course
it
is. Every sequence only has a 1 in 42 million chance.
On that lottery, yes, you're quite right. Okay, let's move on to our next question. Well, next story. And I'm going to pick on John for this one.
Right, yo.
Okay. So here's a clue as to what the story is about. The Diocese of New York, to overcome lockdown restrictions, have reclassified their churches to temporary restaurants to perform communion. Current limits for worship are 10 attendees, while the new classification expands that capacity to 1/4 of the individual churches, meaning you can have an average between 50 and 250 diners. Sorry, it's a congregational diner. There'll be diners, won't it, because it's restaurants, right, in those churches.
All right. So, it's
fact or fiction.
Yeah, well, let me
fake.
have a think about this. I'm not sure what the rules are now in America. Do they have to have proper meals? You know, could you get to the communion rail and ask for a burger and chips? I'm sure the esteemed Donald would do that. They are quite inventive, aren't they? On the other hand, New York's very liberal and Democrat, and probably be quite sort of cautious about COVID. True, because they're trendy and innovative in a lot of the church in the seaboard parts of the States. Yeah, I'm saying true.
I'm sorry, it was fake.
That Governor Cuomo, eh? Oh, he's a real person.
Yeah, had a lake named after him, though.
Okay, now we move on to Ishi's story.
Go for it, Ishi.
Alien barnacles washed up on the Isle of Scilly. Locals were very surprised in St. Mary's in the Scilly Islands when thousands of goose barnacles, and this is a picture of a goose barnacle, washed up on the beach. The barnacles were attached to a piece of driftwood. So there you go. Fact or fake?
Okay. So can I just say the sound was a little bit crackly, so I heard bits in between. So did you say aliens washed up on Isle of Sicily?
I think it's
Alien
Isle of Scilly.
barnacles.
Barnacles.
And this is
Okay,
Isle of Scilly.
tentacles.
Let
On
me
the Isle of
see. Yeah. Well, what we'll do? Well, try and change my mic. If that sounded any
Did
better.
anyone hear?
Yes,
Did anyone?
what I heard, Roger will actually correct me if I'm wrong, was that these alien barnacles were washed up on the Isle of Scilly in the United Kingdom, not the Isle of Sicily in, obviously, just off the coast of Italy. They are.
It's like a very good version of autocorrect, this, isn't it?
Oh, your sound's
You
better
are
now,
much clearer
Roger.
now, Roger.
You're much better
Yeah.
now. Yes.
Well, I'm obviously still having
Okay.
problems with my main microphone, so I've switched to my pub microphone.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, okay, alien
Actually,
barnacles.
Roger, can you actually repeat it again
Yeah,
because I might have
please.
got it
Yeah.
wrong.
Alien
Thank you.
barnacles washed up on the Isle of Scilly. Locals were very surprised in St. Mary's in the Scilly Isles when thousands of goose barnacles washed up on the beach. The barnacles were attached to a piece of driftwood.
Oh. Well, I've not been to the Isle of Scilly, but I can imagine that if I was on the Isle of Scilly, which incidentally is one of the few places that's tier 1, I know where we're all going for Christmas, right? I think I would imagine if I was living on an isle called Scilly, I would just have the license to be silly all the time, to be honest. And so would I be surprised by something like alien tentacles turning up? Probably not, because I probably want to have a little play with them. And that kind of thing probably happens a lot if I was living on the Isle of Scilly in tier 1. Just in case we don't know, it's one of the 3 places that is tier 1. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So I suppose, what would I say? It is quite a gruesome picture, though, isn't it? It's quite a gruesome picture. I wonder what those creatures actually are.
They're goose
Ooh.
barnacles.
Goose, did you
Yeah,
say?
that's the name of the actual barnacle. It's a goose barnacle.
And is a barnacle a tentacle? Because I've not come across that phrase.
It's a crustacean.
Oh.
You get barnacles on boats. As a pirate, I should know that.
You get barnacles on.
Okay, I would say that no, people were not surprised at them turning up. So I would say it's fake news.
Fake news? Let's see.
Well, like you said, it's tier 1, so anything can turn up there.
It's a real story. So, yeah, this is a story of barnacles washing up on the Isle of Scilly. As I've just said, barnacles are crustaceans, and it's not the first time the islanders have had visits from non-local crustaceans, as Charles and Camilla visited in 2018.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll tell you, as a kind of honorary Cornishman, as I lived there for a while, I can tell you they'll be worried in Cornwall because they don't like people coming from outside. And once they know there's these aliens on the Isles of Scilly, they'll be putting up special watches around Land's End and the Lizard Peninsula to make sure these things don't turn up there.
Oh.
Because they're tier 1, you know.
Oh, wow.
They want to stay that way.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I thought it would happen, but I didn't think people would be surprised by it. That's why I was calling it out fake. Yeah. Yeah.
So, we've had Michael Griffiths playing along at home. He says the lottery question is true, which
He's
Well
right.
already
done,
revealed.
Michael.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've had other people telling me well, Alex Lean probably puts it. Apparently, I should have shouted "exterminate, exterminate." So I do wonder why I'm having these audio problems. I thought I cured them by reinstalling the drivers and everything like that, but obviously not. So I'm just trying to get through the Alex off of my screen. He's not on the show this week. Anyway.
He sponsored it
He's a
last
nice
week.
boy.
He's in the bath. Does he have bubbles in the bath?
I hope his rubber duck is well placed.
He's got alien barnacles.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, barnacles on
I've
his
got-
bottom.
I've got a special surprise for this week's show. I've got a fourth fact or fake news story. And I'm going to say the story, then I'm going to come to each of you individually to very quickly say whether it's fact or fake. So here's the fourth fact or fake story. The 400 Rabbit Tequila Bar in Nottingham has applied to be classified as the 400 Rabbit Church, as it wants to throw open its doors to its congregation of worshippers to the religion of tequila. It is hoped by the bar owner that this will allow it to open, even though it is in a Tier 3 area. First to Al Grant.
I'm going to say fake. The religion of tequila. No, fake.
Let's go to Professor John.
You're trying to do some reverse psychology here. After the one about the New York churches being a fake, you're going to try and make us say this must be true, but I'm sticking with Al. I'm saying it's fake.
And let's go to Ishi.
I think it's true, actually. I think the bar would apply for that status because I think it would just be a fun thing for a tequila bar to do. You know,
And be tax exempt.
Yes,
Let's
absolutely.
Let's see whether you're right or not.
Dear, oh
It
dear, oh
is
dear.
Right. And the reason why I included that as a bonus round is that I've read the church round about the New York church. Yeah, I scripted that story, and just yesterday I was watching the news, and this story came up, and I thought, I've made up a story about a church wanting to be a restaurant in New York, and then somebody wants to make their bar a church in Nottingham. So it was just the parallels of the story. I mean, I just thought it was very funny.
That's the magic of Christmas,
you
Roger.
need to get sponsorship from them.
Well,
you need to get sponsorship from them.
Available for this show.
Yeah.
If you want to sponsor the show, by all means, send us a message, and you can sponsor the show. There is a sponsor logo at the start of the show, which you can have. So anyway, let's move on to the next round. I'm just going to remove that one and move on to the next round.
Prat of the week.
Quite interestingly, because that was voiced by Alex Leam, he is now out of the bath and he's drying off.
Fantastic. That's a bit too much information. What's happened on Prat of the Week? I've had each of our guests to nominate a Prat of the Week. So, and they don't know who each other's Prat of the Week is, and they're going to be given 45 seconds, and I ought to get my stopwatch ready. They'll be given 45 seconds to justify their Prat of the Week. Okay, so first of all, we'll see whose Prat of the Week comes up first. This, of course, is Rita
Very
Ora.
tense. Perhaps we need some drum.
And when I say over to Professor John, you get 45 seconds to justify why you believe Rita Ora is the Prat of the Week. Over to Professor John.
Yeah, Rita Ora. I gather she's a singer. My knowledge of singers, with a few noble exceptions, largely expires in 1984. But I gather she's a singer. I thought she was an orange fruit drink, but that's her sister Kia. And what she did this week was try and celebrate her 30th birthday party by going to a trendy restaurant in Notting Hill. And, there were lots of people there. Well, what a surprise. She claimed it was spontaneous. That is, she just thought she'd go out for a party at the Casa Cruz and, there were a whole load of her friends. So she broke all these coronavirus rules. The Sun clearly knew this was going to happen because they had photographers there.
Oh no, I wanted to hear the rest of that. Oh, John, she's not a singer. She's actually an MP.
If
For the SNP.
If she was an American singer, she could be president.
Well, apparently, I looked her up on Wikipedia. Her first hit was called something like "We Know How to Party" or something like that. Was it? How we do party. That's right. How we do party. Well, she doesn't party in a very clever way, and her issued this improbable apology full of very long words, which I'm sure a publicist must have written for her.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if she's now going to be persuaded to release a cover version of the Beastie Boys song.
Cool.
Right?
Sabotage.
I want to fight for my right to party.
Ah, of course.
You know, she was part of the initial, like all the musicians got together and did a live music thing to encourage people to stay at home because her mother is actually a doctor or works in the NHS. So she was like really pressing the point that you should stay at home. That's why I think she's MP material, really.
Oh, I get you. Yeah. Hypocrisy. Yeah. I'm very high on the hypocrisy state. Apparently, the restaurant's going to get fined, not her. It's the restaurant that copped it.
Let's move on from Rita to the next Prat of the Week. This is Ishi's Prat of the Week, and I'll let her explain more. It's not actually the Hungry Caterpillar as a Prat of the Week. Her Prat of the Week is Apple, which I imagine is the Apple Corporation in America. But
yes,
I'll hand it over to Ishi to explain, and you've got 45 seconds starting now.
Oh my goodness, talk really fast. Okay, so I've been handling lockdown by escaping into the world of the Ottoman Empire. And it's been really educational, but it's also been fun because it's a dramatic version of it. But it can bring on nightmares. And one of the things that stops me getting nightmares about the Mongols' brutal treatment and oppression of the Turkic Muslims was the fact that it wasn't in the present until Apple computers come along and they want to lobby against a bill that they're trying to pass against the forced use of Turkic Muslims, about 1 to 2 million Turkic Muslims in China. So they've kind of made me go, oh, the oppression by the Mongols is still alive.
Right. So I've just oppressed you with a klaxon. So, well, thank you very much. I mean, yeah, very, very, very interesting and well put. When the weird thing about this week is that when I was looking up the fact or fake stories, I had so many to choose from, and with Ishi identifying Apple as a Prat of the Week, I had a story about an apple this week. So I thought I'd just introduce quickly that story now. It was a jogger discovers new variety of apple It was discovered by a nature lover while he was out running. His name's, I believe, Archie Thomas from Nadderth Valley in Wiltshire. He came across the windfall apple on a wooded trackway near his home early in the month. Experts have confirmed the highly unusual fruit, which tastes quite good, is a new variety, which Mr. Thomas hopes to propagate and name. So what I loved about this story is that the picture of Mr. Thomas, right, and the headline, "Jogger discovers new variety of apple." Does he look like a jogger?
No, not with that jacket or that hat.
It's the hat. It's the hat. That's not a jogger's hat.
Anyway, sorry for that slight stray away from the press. But I just thought it was a great story to insert at that point in time. Let's
really
move
nice
on.
Story.
Let's
I have
move
to
on
say, allegedly, Apple computers are trying to stop the passing of a bill in China to stop the oppression of nearly 200 Muslims that are being used as forced labor. I have to add that.
So the one thing I will say about this show is I think it's all allegedly, whenever we're doing anything. It is a satire show, so shouldn't be taken overly serious. So anyway, let's move on to the Pratt of the Week as nominated by Al Grant. This is the jockey, Oson Murphy. And
that's very good.
Your 45 seconds starts now.
Ocean Murphy is a 25-year-old jockey. He loves to ride the horses. He's really good at it. And he put himself in a situation which had a copious amount of cocaine. Now, he believes he was infected by cocaine as part of a sexually transmitted disease when he decided to have sex with somebody that was there. I have to state quite clearly, this is not allegedly, this is legendary. You don't get cocaine contamination by doing that. That's obviously French rules for testing as well. It's just a really bizarre story. He kept on saying, "No, I did."
So, well, thank you very much, Al, or Lord Sparkles, you're also known as. This was the story about Ocean Murphy being contaminated with cocaine. It doesn't surprise me really, because he's a jockey and he always wants to be the first to the line. There you go. I keep doing the rim shot for my own joke, just to wind Alex Liam up, because I know it winds him up. So
if only he'd listened to Donald Trump and drunk a bit of bleach, you'd have been fine.
So so anyway, that's the 3 Prats of the week. So it's now up to me to choose the Prat of the week.
Tough one.
It's a very tough one. Should I choose Rita Ora for partying? Right? Does that make you a prat wanting to party when you're 30? A bit silly, because don't take any pictures because it might leak to the press and that kind of thing. Bollocks to it. If you're famous, people will take pictures and will inform the press if you're famous and you do something as stupid as hold a party for your 30th birthday. So Apple allegedly trying to block legislation. So it's an interesting one. Shouldn't happen if it's true. However, I'm sure Apple will say it's not true. And Ocean, crap with surnames, but this is the first name.
Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Murphy. Yeah, he's.
Is he
I mean,
11?
this happened a few months ago, and he's actually convinced people it wasn't deliberate. They got contaminated. Apparently, he had cocaine in his hair from being contaminated for putting himself in a situation. I think he's a prat. So I'm
very
going to
sticky situation.
Prat of the
Oh,
week
yes.
to the jockey.
Yes.
So
Yay!
well done, Mr. Grant.
Yay. I think as well, you know, Rita Ora's picture, you know, she did that photo shoot in my backdrop. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's always popping round to yours, isn't she? Is she?
She is, yeah. She's getting how to be an MP coaching.
I bet she thinks 30 is really old.
So anyway,
No comment.
that was the prat of the week. Okay, we're now moving on to the good, the bad, and the utterly stupid.
The good, the bad, and the utterly stupid.
Now, I'm just looking at viewers' comments. I probably ought to. I did look at these before I switched off Prat of the Week, but we do have a comment in from Michael Griffiths, who sponsors the jockey Coca-Cola. Yeah, it's
Yes.
eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Good old
I'm
Mike.
gonna. It's a little bit sad, that one. So, but thank you very much for. I mean, I love the contribution. So, thank you very much for the contribution. So, moving on then to the good, the bad, and the utterly stupid. If I can actually get my screen working.
Al's concentrating.
Okay. The story
I
which
have to do
because
reading.
I haven't got a story yet. The story which I'm doing is the death of the high street. So yeah, we've lost Debenhams. Burton, well, the Arcadia Group's gone into administration. It's sad times, isn't it? Let's go to Al Grant on this story.
Yes.
Let's go to
absolutely
Professor
awful.
John on this story.
Al, are you bidding?
I just said it's absolutely awful. I was about to start speaking. I thought, oh, he said to get straight to the professor.
You left a
Let's
long
have the
pause,
professor's
actually, yeah.
learned.
Hesitation. Oh, this is just a minute, isn't it?
That's repetition.
Right. Okay, I'm getting some great entries here. Let's go to Ishi. What do you think of the death of the high street, Ishi?
Well, the Arcadia Group going under. I think Phil Green, you know, his empire is dying. If we look at the history of the Arcadia Group and their practices, shall we say, of using labour or exploiting labour and seamstresses, I think this is karmic, actually. And for me, I don't really shop at any of those places, so it doesn't really affect me. I think it's great because there's more room for bars like 400 Rabbits to come along, and coffee shops that can be, you know, 300 tortillas, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's awful. Maybe there'll be more comedy venues. Let's do that.
I think
the really bad part about
both of you were speaking, so didn't hear either.
Let's go to Al Grant first.
No. Let's go to Professor. He's talking about Philip Green sold his yacht.
Yeah. I thank you. I was just going to say that if Philip Green sold his yacht, he could probably rescue half those names straight away. Did you see it on the telly? It's massive. It's like the Britannia or whatever it is the Queen sails around in. But
wow.
As he says, he you know, there are some dubious practices, and of course he's a guy who's well known in business circles for underinvesting in his businesses and trying to reap what profits he can while he can, and then letting them go to the wall. It's the being the age I am, It's the pension stuff that I think about most. The staff there being made redundant and possibly having their pensions in jeopardy, like the British Home Stores ones were. But the death of the high street. What's the high street going to become? I think in a way it's quite exciting because, as Ishi said, there's room for different things like bars and coffee shops, but probably more residential stuff. Probably what's the term for this? Brownfield sites for house building. So I think in some ways our so-called high streets and shopping areas and city centres and town centres could become more lively because there'll be more people actually living there, and better than building on the green belt.
Fair enough. Thank you for that answer. I mean, one of the things that gets me is that some places don't help themselves, though. Let's look at Nottingham. When you're walking from the railway station into the city centre, this is what you're greeted with.
Yeah.
What does it say?
This way to city centre shopping.
Yeah.
That's the
Brilliant.
main route from the railway station into Nottingham.
Brilliant.
Yep. And let me tell you, when I was a student in Nottingham in the late 1970s, it didn't look a lot different from that.
The Nottinghamshire Wildlife Trust is actually trying to persuade the council to finish off demolishing the old Broadmarsh shopping centre, which was part of the Into group, which of course has gone pop. The shopping centre has now been taken back over by the freehold holder was the council, and they've taken the shopping centre back over. And the Nottingham Wildlife Trust are trying to persuade the council to finish off demolishing the Broadmarsh Centre and turn it into a big green space. So, any views on that, or do we think it's a good idea?
It's a very tricky one because going back to the reallocation of taking down these massive department stores and repurposing them as apartments and flats, what's the attraction to be there if all the shops are closed? It's just basically going to be a prison. I don't see that being a positive thing. Turning this into sort of greenfield space and repurposing, I think, is a fantastic thing. But what I'm saying isn't actually very funny, so I'll stop.
Anyway, I'm afraid I'm just looking at viewers' comments now, and we've got no other stories being suggested by viewers. So I've got another one lined up. Liverpool is to become the Hollywood of the North. They are building a new TV studio, film studio in Liverpool.
Wow.
Why not?
Yes.
Didn't they film some of the Batman film or something there recently?
Yeah, this is where it's come from, because they've filmed not only Batman, there was another film which I can't remember what it was, but they definitely filmed a new Batman film there. And what is happening, the council's looking at it and saying, well, they're filming the films in the city. Shall we give them, but they're not filming the actual indoor parts of the film, the technical parts, which employs a lot of people. They're just doing the outside locations. So the hope is by investing in these big new studios in Liverpool, it will attract the filmmakers not only to use Liverpool as an outdoor set, but also film the rest of the film in Liverpool and bring all the money to Liverpool.
Yeah, good stuff.
Good idea.
Good stuff. Except that they need they've got a few things to sort out, because I was reading, I think it was today actually, that it's rumoured that the mayor of Liverpool, Joe Anderson's, been questioned by police for witness intimidation and
he's got the
bribery
receipts.
Scams. So they probably need to get their municipal finances sorted out before they welcome any stuff like that to look really squeaky clean. Going to be awkward for the government as well. Going to be awkward for the government.
Studios are going to open in March.
Are they now? Okay. Still have to socially distance then, or maybe they'll get priority vaccinations.
So anyway, another story which I put down, because we've still got no stories from our viewers. If anyone's watching and you would like us to discuss one of the current stories, please put it on the list put a comment on the screen and say hello and give us a story, and we'll thrash it about. So let's look at the. Oh, I've noted two things down. I'm going to have to go with a Corona story, I'm afraid. How areas are in tier 3 or tier 2 or tier 1? How is the government actually making that selection? I think they're using the South African lottery machine.
Random.
And for those who've only just joined the show who don't know what I'm talking about, watch the catch up and you'll see a story earlier about the South African lottery machine. That is a true story. Anyway, let's go to Ishi.
Ooh,
I've spoilt
okay.
it for them now.
I think the tier classification comes from possibly looking at their data and analyzing the future data to say, well, this is how many weddings we think will happen in this said city, and so this if we're going to have lots of weddings in this kind of city, then it'll probably be a 3-tier cake, I would imagine. So that's where tier 3 comes from. And this kind of city, well, the divorce rate is really high, so people are not likely to get married here, or people really would rather just have be polyamorous and not get married. So maybe they might have a few that want ceremonies. So let's just give them a 2-tier cake, and that's where that one comes from. And as for tier 1, they're going, well, do you know what? There's hardly any people there, so let's just forget it. They just have cake all the time. So let's just give them tier 1. So I think that's how they've come up with the whole tier scheme. Yeah,
that's an interesting concept. Let's ask Professor John what his take on it is.
Well, I know that Cornwall is tier 1 because basically Cornwall is perpetually guarded by Trelawney's men all up down the Tamar Valley to make sure no one else gets in. So they're very safe. They're very safe calling it tier 1 because no bugger can get in there, except actually for my one of my daughter-in-laws, her parents. They seem to be able to smuggle their way in. But I think a lot of this stuff about tiers is, there's got to be some basis in scientific evidence, infection rates rising or falling or whatever. But it's all a bit crude, and I have a very strong suspicion that a lot of it's around the convenience of leading members of the government and what they see. Everyone seems to think that London should have been in tier 3. But of course, they're all there a lot of the time, so they didn't fancy tier 3. They wanted a few more opportunities to go out and get around the town, and MPs shag each other, and go out to Rita Ora's 30th birthday party, and allegedly in Notting Hill. But apparently even London is soon to be tier 3. So that'll be the acid test, I reckon, Roger. If they're willing to put London in tier 3, I'll believe they're being objective. Excuse me for a moment. My cat Oscar needs to go out.
Right. Let's get to Lord Sparkles for his view.
Well, I did like the fact that Professor John decided to link the word smugglers with Cornwall, with nobody actually saying that's obviously very prejudgmental, because Smugglers Cove.
Oh.
Yeah.
You didn't hear Professor John? He was talking.
But I didn't hear the smugglers reference, so sorry about
yes,
that.
They're smuggling his daughter into the island of Cornwall. So yeah, that's one of the interesting elements. Cornwall. The cake is actually urinal cake, not a wedding cake at all. And what they did in Liverpool, which I found quite interesting, which you probably don't know, so this might be first for all of you. What they did was they sampled particular sewage areas on there to pinpoint where they'd need to actually look for COVID. And that's kind of what they will probably be doing the government-wise going forward. So it's not really nice. I don't fancy doing that, but that is a genuine job, and that is genuinely what they were doing to target their testing regime. I think there is scientific evidence which we're not going to be privy to until maybe 20, 30 years' time. So there you go.
Maybe if you look at the areas which are all in tier 3 and the swathes of the country which are in tier 2 and even tier 1, it's possible Boris has looked at which areas are likely to vote Tory in the next election and chosen those areas in a lower tier.
Maybe I was inching my way towards that, but from what Al just said, it really is a shit way of calculating it, then, isn't it? They're going down in the sewage. Yeah.
So,
going through the motions, I reckon.
I think if that's Boris's plan, Roger, it's going to backfire, because if he's, I heard that it's to do with hospital capacity. So if he's like saying, okay, London, you can be tier 2 because, I really want you to vote for me, all you people. What he's saying is, we've got lots of hospitals in London. So actually, we're expecting lots of you to be sick, and many of you will probably die. So it's going to backfire on him. Whereas tier 3, they're saying, we haven't really got that many hospitals to deal with all of you. So people will probably be safer and just stay at home. Safer physically. I don't know about mentally. But, the mental exasperation might just make people all stand for Prime Minister. Then who's to say what could happen? So, yeah, I think that if that's the theory, it's going to backfire on Boris. He should have a better advisor.
Anyway, before we move on to the last round, I've just checked the comments. We haven't got too many comments to come back on. If you've brought a cuddly toy, you can bring it on screen and squeeze it if you want. Here's mine. My little soft monster.
Oh, Teddy, what's yours, Al? Oh, is that nice-eyed one?
Oh, unicorn.
My name is Noonie, the Noonicorn. Oh, I'm so happy to be on here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, that's charming, Al.
Oh, no,
I wouldn't expect any less.
Is that your Roger mask?
Give me your life.
Okay.
I much prefer issues. It had to be pink as well. This is Millennium Morris, the 2000 teddy bear. My wife says he's a lot nicer in bed than I am.
Anyway, let's move on to the final round.
I predict a riot!
Right, this is the final round of the show where I'm going to go to each of our guests to make a prediction about 2021, or between now and the end of 2021. And these predictions will be reviewed. It could be adding someone to the Blue Suede News Deadpool. It could be making a prediction about what's going to happen. We've had a few predictions already. And if you say a prediction somebody else has said, I will ask you to make another prediction. So I will come to Professor John first for a prediction.
Yeah, well, I've been thinking deeply about this. I've been watching The Crown, like a lot of people have, and seeing what a shit life it seemed to be inside that marriage for them both, really, Charles and Di, but especially Di. And the Daily Mail and Daily Express and all that, ever since she apparently died in Paris, have been running stories about conspiracies.
Apparently
sometimes, because sometimes it's even claimed that she didn't die, and this has got my mind worrying. You see, because I think that marriage was so bad that she would have done anything to get out of it. So I think it was a fake death. Now I've combined this with that mad president in Brazil, not the USA. What's he called? Bolsonaro, is it? Something like that?
That's right.
And he's a great fan of basically chopping down the Amazon forests for timber. And as that happens, of course, various quite isolated tribes of people are found. So my prediction for 2021 is that during this deforestation, Princess Diana will be found living with a tribe of people where she went to hide in 1997 to escape from her appalling marriage with Prince Charles. And unfortunately, the deforestation will uncover her plot. They'll probably find Adolf Eichmann and Lord Lucan as well while they're at it. So that's my prediction. Diana found alive in the Amazon rainforest.
I've got to say that's a very strong prediction. So thank you very much. I've noted it down onto the Blue Suede News prediction list. Let's go to Ishi.
Oh my goodness, I haven't really thought about this at all, actually. But you know what? I'm just thinking, like, with where we are now, I think what's actually going to happen in 2020 is all governments will be completely non-existent, a little bit like the Arcadian group. They will just like disband and they will go. And what will happen instead is emojis are going to rise and take power. And yes, and it'll be a much fairer world because we will have lots more colors of emojis rather than the skin toned ones, and we can all fly on rainbows, and unicorns will be seen.
Can I just interrupt there and say, based on the way governments become, right? If emojis took over and we had an emoji government, they'd all be shaped like the shit emoji.
No, because that's this government. We're looking at the future where, yes, and people will be so happy that they'll get to see unicorns for real.
Oh. Okay, let's go to Al Grant for his prediction.
Mine's a 2-stage one, just like Professor John. Mine is that, unfortunately, there is going to be the death of the majority of almost all cinemas. That's a sad fact. But some of them will survive. IMAX. And what's going to bring people to IMAX? It's going to be the live action remake of Danger Mouse with Professor Van Tam as Danger Mouse. So that's two things. The death
remake of Danger Mouse, live action version.
Live action.
Would this be a Disney?
Oh, you're frozen. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
No, it was talking about Danger Mouse, not Frozen.
Let it go.
Let it
go.
So
they're actually running open air cinemas at the moment in some places, Brighton and Bath. You'd expect Brighton, wouldn't you? I mean, anything happens there. But they're actually having open air cinemas at the moment. Where the best advice is wrap up warm.
The weird thing with Brighton is that they actually built a big IMAX cinema, right? And they built it probably before they became trendy. And a few years ago, because it wasn't getting the required number of people going to the cinema, they actually demolished it.
Oh.
At the point where IMAX started to become trendy to go to. So they had someone who had the foresight that IMAX was going to be a big thing. They just got there far too early.
Yes, Brighton is ahead on a lot of things. Very much. I think, maybe that's why I love it there so much. It's a wonderful place, and of course, it's Caroline Lucas's place, isn't it? So it's very good.
Anyway, believe it or not, we are at the end of the show.
Oh no!
That's episode 5. So we'll be back again next week with another show. But before we leave, I'm going to ask each of our guests if they want to plug anything. So let's go to Lord Sparkles first.
Nothing. I have nothing to plug. Just enjoy yourself.
Thank you, Lord Sparkle. Let's see if Ishi would like to plug anything.
Pink plugs. Ta-ta!
Professor John, and I'm aware for Professor John, this is his first streamed show like this, so very good to have you on for your first stream show. Have you anything you would like to plug?
Yeah, I mean, who knows if lockdown's going to allow it to happen, but I've got a show with the lovely Harry Sanders called Who Let the Dons Out, because we're both academics, as part of the Leicester Comedy Festival. So look that up on the Leicester Comedy Festival site, and it's a socially distant show, of course. I think that means about 10 or 15 people can get in. So we're confident of selling the place out, but it'll be fun. Half an hour from me, half an hour from Harry. Academics on the loose.
So thank you very much. Anyway, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I'm just going to check viewer comments just before I end the stream and just before we say bye. We've had a comment from Michael Griffiths. Lovely for you to join us throughout the show, Michael, again, and goodbye to you. So, and it's been a pleasure for all the other viewers who've been watching us. And please come back next week at 9 o'clock. And what we'll do, we'll say bye for now, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.